There's a strange moment many women know too well. One that feels almost like standing in front of a door that's finally open, yet your feet refuse to move. You've waited for this. You've prayed for a break, a chance, a hand reaching back. And then, right when life begins to soften and unfold, something inside you whispers, "Turn around." It's subtle at first. A knot in the stomach, a sudden heaviness in your chest, a voice saying, "Don't mess this up." Another voice responding, "Maybe you already have." It's a feeling soaked in fear, but also in sadness. Sadness that you're here again, sabotaging something good without understanding why. Sadness that you're watching yourself from the outside, as if the moment were happening to someone else. And beneath that sadness, a quiet anger simmers, the anger of being tired, so tired, of repeating the same patterns you swore you were done with. If you've ever felt yourself shrink right when you were supposed to rise, you're not alone. Millions of women experience this emotional push-pull every single day. It's confusing. It's humiliating. It makes you question your worth. And yet, what if I told you this isn't because you're weak or damaged or irresponsible? What if the truth is far more compassionate and far more logical than you've ever imagined? Let me tell you about Sarah, a woman whose inner world mirrors so many others. She's 32, smart, funny, deeply intuitive. The world sees her as capable, even extraordinary. But inside, her emotional landscape is a storm she never learned to predict. Last year, she finally received a promotion she'd been chasing for years. Everyone cheered. Everyone told her she deserved it. And for a few hours, she believed them. She went home with a flutter in her chest, a joy that felt too bright, almost blinding. But as night fell, joy turned into panic. The excitement curdled. Her mind spun with thoughts she couldn't quiet. What if I can't handle it? What if they realize they made a mistake? What if I disappoint everyone? What if this ruins everything? Sadness, fear, anger, even a strange kind of shame. All of them washed over her in a single unpredictable wave. By the end of the week, Sarah had already convinced herself she wasn't qualified. She withdrew in meetings, declined new opportunities, made small mistakes from overthinking, then beat herself up for everyone. Within a month, she was quietly unraveling, whispering to a coworker, "Maybe I wasn't ready for this. Maybe I should have stayed where I was." That's self-sabotage. But not the kind people mock or oversimplify. Not laziness, not irresponsibility, not drama. No. This is a deeper, quieter force. A protective instinct. A survival reflex disguised as failure. It's your mind choosing familiarity over possibility, safety over expansion. Even when the safe thing is actually harming you. The human brain is designed to protect you from danger, but it doesn't distinguish between physical threats and emotional ones. To your nervous system, a new job, a healthy relationship, or a milestone you've never reached before can feel just as threatening as a dark alley. Anything new, anything uncertain, anything that requires vulnerability can register as risk. So your mind does what it's been trained to do. It tightens. It hesitates. It blocks. It slams internal doors just when external ones finally open. Fear is the emotion we think drives this. But often, there's more. There's grief. Grief for the parts of you that learned to survive by staying small. There's anger. Anger at yourself for not being able to simply push through. There's guilt, especially for women. Guilt for wanting more than what you were told you're allowed to desire. And strangely, there can even be relief. The quiet relief of slipping back into familiar patterns. Because familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar joy. Sarah didn't sabotage because she didn't want the promotion. She sabotaged because her nervous system wasn't prepared to feel the intensity of growth, visibility, and expectation. Her success activated old memories, buried ones she didn't even know she still carried. Moments where she had been criticized for trying, punished for shining, laughed at for being ambitious, or simply overlooked, even when she was extraordinary. And your body remembers what your conscious mind forgets. This is the hidden logic of self-sabotage. It is your mind trying to protect you from emotional risks based on outdated information. It's the body's way of saying, this is unfamiliar, and unfamiliar has hurt us before. When something good arrives, love, opportunity, peace, you might think you're afraid of losing it. But often, you're afraid of believing in it. Because belief requires vulnerability. And vulnerability requires trust. And trust has not always been safe. But here's the truth you deserve to hear gently, even if it stings a little at first. You are not fighting your potential. You are fighting the version of yourself who learned that safety meant shrinking. And she is still inside you, terrified of vanishing. The good news is that she doesn't have to vanish. She doesn't have to be silenced or shamed. She can be understood, reassured, integrated. When you realize that your sabotage is actually a misfired survival instinct, it changes everything. You stop demonizing yourself. You stop calling yourself lazy, dramatic, or inconsistent. You start seeing your patterns for what they truly are. Unfinished emotional stories. And this is where transformation begins. Not by forcing yourself to be fearless, but by learning how to feel safe in moments where your old self feels threatened. By creating internal stability, even when life expands around you. By hearing the trembling girl inside you say, "I'm scared," and responding, "I know, and I'm not abandoning you." This is how we move from self-protection to self-trust. Long before a woman ever sabotages her adult life, something quiet is already shaping her. Something that doesn't show up in photos, family stories, or polished resumes. It hides in the pauses between sentences, in the way her voice softens when she expresses a desire, in the way she apologizes before asking for anything, in the way she tenses, almost imperceptibly, when someone praises her. These are not random quirks. They're the emotional fingerprints of history. Her history. Her family's history. And the long shadow of what society has taught women to be. When Sarah finally began to unpack her patterns, it wasn't an intellectual exercise. She didn't sit down with a checklist and discover a neat explanation. It came in fragments, like shards of a memory she wasn't sure belonged to her. One night, while preparing for an important presentation, she heard a voice she hadn't heard out loud in years. Her mother's, softly saying, Don't draw too much attention to yourself, honey. People don't like girls who show off. A sentence so gentle, so harmless on the surface, and yet it had carved a quiet fear into her bones. In that moment, confusion washed over her. Then sadness, because she realized she had spent her entire life dimming her light. Not because she wasn't capable, but because she was taught to fear the consequences of shining. And then came anger. A deep, simmering anger, not at her mother, but at a world that taught generations of women the same lesson. Stay small. Stay pleasant. Stay easy to love. Every fear has a birthplace. Every self-sabotaging pattern has a moment of origin. And more often than not, that moment begins in childhood. Fear of failure rarely starts with actually failing. It begins with the first time a girl was made to feel that mistakes were unacceptable. Maybe her parents said it with frustration. Maybe with disappointment. Maybe with silence, the kind that makes a young child feel like their worth has suddenly disappeared. Children don't understand nuance. They don't separate the action from the identity. One forgotten homework sheet becomes, "I am irresponsible." One bad grade becomes, "I will always fail." The shame is instant. And shame has a long memory. Then there's fear of success. A fear so ironic it often confuses women when they first encounter it. You'd think success would feel like relief, like joy, like pride. But for many women, success is frightening because it carries weight, visibility, expectations, the possibility of being judged or resented. For Sarah, success felt like standing under a bright spotlight, one she never asked for. It brought back the old lessons. Don't be too loud, don't be too ambitious, don't outgrow the people around you. Don't make anyone uncomfortable. There's a particular sadness in realizing you've held yourself back, not because you lacked potential, but because you believed becoming too much would cost you love. And with that sadness often comes grief. Heavy grief for the years spent hiding. For some women, the emotional roots run even deeper, wrapped around what psychologists call the mother wound. It's not about blaming mothers. It's about understanding the invisible emotional inheritance passed from woman to woman through generations. If your mother sacrificed her dreams, you might have learned that desire is dangerous. If she endured pain quietly, you might have learned that you must tolerate discomfort without complaint. If she put others above herself every day of her life, you might have absorbed the belief that your needs are selfish, indulgent, unimportant. This inheritance creates a longing to be good in the eyes of others, even at the cost of your own well-being. And where there is longing, there is vulnerability. And where there is vulnerability, sabotage often follows. Then there's trauma, not always the dramatic kind, but the subtle, emotional kind that often goes unnamed. A childhood of inconsistency teaches a nervous system to brace for disappointment. A parent who is quick to anger teaches a child to play small. A home where love felt conditional teaches a girl that affection must be earned through perfection. And when that girl grows up, she may find herself fawning, overgiving, over-apologizing, or overworking whenever she senses tension, even when no threat exists. This is what attachment psychologists call the echo effect. The echoes show up in adult relationships. Sarah experienced it in a past relationship with a man who loved her, deeply, consistently, without playing games. But to her nervous system, consistency felt suspicious. Safety felt unfamiliar. Love felt overwhelming. And because she didn't know how to receive it, she questioned it, tested it, pushed it away. She mistook peace for boredom, stability for danger, kindness for weakness. That's not immaturity. It's conditioning. And conditioning is powerful. And then, layered over all of this, is the relentless pressure of modern life. Social media, comparison, impossible standards of beauty and productivity. Women today are told they can have it all, be it all, achieve it all. But rarely are they given the space to rest, breathe, or simply be. Under this pressure, even the smallest slip can feel like a collapse. And the shame that follows only reinforces old beliefs. I'm behind. I'm not enough. I'll never get this right. It is no wonder so many women sabotage themselves. When your past, your culture, your memories, your fears, and your nervous system converge in a single moment of decision, how could you not hesitate? How could you not tremble? How could you not run back to what once felt safe? But here's the truth that begins to soften everything. Your patterns make sense. Your fear makes sense. Your hesitation makes sense. You are not broken. You are responding exactly as someone with your history was taught to respond. Understanding the roots is not about dwelling in pain. It's about reclaiming power. Because once you see where your patterns began, you can begin to loosen their grip. And once you can loosen their grip, you can learn, slowly, gently, courageously, to live in a different way. The past may plant the seeds of self-sabotage, but it's the modern world that waters them every single day. We like to believe that time heals, that adulthood frees us, that becoming older somehow makes everything simpler. But for many women, the pressures of modern life don't calm the nervous system. They inflame it. They take old wounds and stretch them wider. They take quiet insecurities and amplify them, like echoes bouncing off steel walls. And sometimes, without even realizing it, the world around us becomes the perfect storm in which self-sabotage thrives. Sarah knew this storm intimately. She didn't wake up sabotaging her life. She woke up overwhelmed by it. The alarm would buzz and she'd feel a heaviness before her feet even touched the floor. Not sadness, not laziness, just a heavy sense of being behind. Behind other women. Behind what society said she should already have. Behind the fictional timelines she saw every day on her screen. A job promotion wasn't enough. A relationship wasn't enough. Her productivity wasn't enough. Somehow, she wasn't enough. And she wasn't alone. Millions feel that same invisible pressure pressing against their chest each morning. It's not that the world today is cruel on purpose. It's just relentless. There's always another woman online achieving more, looking flawless, traveling effortlessly, balancing a perfect relationship with a glowing career and a peaceful spirituality. Every scroll becomes a comparison. Every comparison becomes a quiet punch to the gut. And every punch reminds you of that oldest belief. You're not doing enough. You're not trying hard enough. You're not becoming enough. Comparison doesn't just create envy. It creates grief. The grief of believing you're falling short of a life you were supposed to be living. It creates fear. The fear of being left behind. And yes, it even stirs anger. Anger at yourself for not being better, faster, stronger. Anger at time for moving too quickly. Anger at society for making perfection feel mandatory. All of these emotions swirl until sabotage starts to feel like a release, a way to escape the unbearable pressure of trying. If Sarah spent an hour scrolling through her feeds before bed, she could feel the shift inside her. Her chest tightened. Her thoughts darkened. Suddenly, her accomplishments looked smaller, her progress slower, her confidence thinner. By the time she fell asleep, her nervous system was already bracing for a reality in which she didn't measure up. And when she woke the next morning, she walked into her day carrying the weight of a life that didn't even belong to her. Then came the perfectionism. Modern culture worships productivity, hustle, efficiency. Do more, it says. Be more. But it never says rest. It never says enough. Women are told that their value comes from how flawlessly they can balance everything. Work, relationships, health, beauty, emotions, home, dreams. And perfectionism becomes a survival strategy, a way to avoid judgment, a way to avoid the shame of disappointing others. The problem is that perfectionism doesn't protect you. It paralyzes you. Every task becomes intimidating. Every decision feels dangerous. And every failure, no matter how small, feels catastrophic. Sarah would spend hours perfecting an email before sending it, terrified of sounding unprofessional. She hesitated before applying for opportunities because she feared she wasn't fully ready. She would rehearse conversations again and again before ever speaking them out loud. This wasn't caution. It was fear disguised as responsibility. And when the pressure grew too heavy, she shut down, froze, postponed, procrastinated. Not because she didn't care, but because caring too much had exhausted her. Her nervous system lived in a constant cycle: fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fight made her overwork. Flight made her withdraw. Freeze made her procrastinate. Fawn made her overgive to anyone who needed her, especially at the cost of herself. For many women, the fawn response is the most dangerous one. It's the instinct to please, smooth things over, keep harmony at any cost. To say yes when every muscle in your body wants to say no. To stay silent when you should speak. To give more even when you're depleted. It feels generous on the surface, but underneath, it's a desperate attempt to maintain connection. Because losing connection feels like losing oxygen. And that emotional exhaustion, the mental load, the invisible responsibilities, the constant emotional caretaking, creates the perfect conditions for self-sabotage. When you spend all your energy on others, there's nothing left for your own dreams. So when opportunity arrives, when love arrives, when change arrives, you're too depleted to hold it. Another trigger lived quietly in Sarah's life. The emotional backlog she never processed. Women are taught to be strong, to endure, to smile through pain. But unprocessed emotion doesn't disappear. It accumulates. It thickens. It sits beneath the surface like rising water. And the moment life hands you something new, something good, it dislodges everything you've been holding down. That rush of old emotion can feel like drowning, and sabotage becomes an instinctive attempt to protect yourself from being overwhelmed. There were days when Sarah sat in her car before work, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her fingers hurt. Not because she hated her job, but because she feared the flood inside her. She feared her own limits. She feared her own potential. She feared being seen. She feared not being seen. Fear in every direction. This is the modern emotional landscape. Too much input, too much comparison, too much expectation, too much emotional labor, and not enough space to breathe. And in this suffocating environment, sabotage becomes less of a choice and more of an emotional reflex. But recognizing this reflex is crucial, because once you can see how the world around you manipulates your internal world, you can begin to reclaim your power. You can stop confusing burnout with failure. You can stop mistaking comparison for truth. You can stop believing your hesitation is proof of inadequacy. The world may inflame your wounds, but it does not have to dictate your identity. When a woman finally sees her sabotage clearly, when she traces the patterns, understands the fears, and recognizes the triggers, something shifts inside her. It isn't relief. Not yet. It's more like a tremor of possibility. A small spark of hope flickering in the dark. Hope that maybe she isn't doomed to repeat these cycles forever. Hope that maybe she can stop running from herself. Hope that she can learn to trust her own hands again. Sarah felt this shift slowly, like waking up from a long sleep. She didn't start with confidence. She started with curiosity. One quiet evening, sitting alone in her apartment with her laptop open and her thoughts swirling, she whispered to herself, "What if I don't have to stay stuck?" It wasn't a declaration. It was a question. But sometimes, a question is the doorway healing walks through. Her first step wasn't grand or dramatic. It was simple. Noticing. She began catching herself in the moments she usually rushed past. The hesitation before replying yes. The tightness in her throat before sharing an idea. The way she suddenly cleaned her entire kitchen whenever she felt overwhelmed at work. For the first time, she paused long enough to ask, "What am I afraid of right now?" And in those small pauses, clarity trickled in. Not as answers, but as honesty. Awareness didn't fix everything, but it created a space where everything didn't feel so automatic. There was a moment now between the trigger and the reaction. A moment where she could choose. That tiny space felt fragile. So fragile she feared it would disappear if she breathed too loudly. And yet it grew. Breath by breath. Then came compassion. The part she resisted the most. She had always been kinder to others than she was to herself. When a friend cried, she listened with tenderness. When she cried, she scolded herself for being dramatic. Healing required reversing that reflex, and that terrified her. It felt indulgent, wrong, soft in a way that made her uncomfortable. But one night, standing in front of the bathroom mirror with tears on her cheeks. She pressed a hand to her heart and said out loud, "This hurts. And it makes sense that it hurts." The moment was small, but it cracked something open. Compassion didn't erase the pain, but it softened the edges. It gave her permission to exist without performing. It allowed joy to feel less dangerous, and sadness to feel less shameful. It turned her inner world from an enemy into a home, a place where she didn't have to earn her right to stay. With compassion came courage. The courage to challenge the beliefs she once treated as truth. She realized that many of the thoughts that governed her life were echoes, not facts. "I'm not ready," an echo. "They'll think I'm not qualified," an echo. "Something bad always happens when things go well," an echo. These beliefs weren't lies. They were outdated instructions meant to keep her safe at an earlier time. But she wasn't that girl anymore. And sometimes the hardest part of healing is updating the beliefs that no longer fit the woman you've become. She started asking herself questions she never had the bravery to ask. What if I'm more capable than I've ever allowed myself to admit? What if I've been underestimating my own strength? What if the story I've been living isn't the story I'm meant to continue? Slowly, new beliefs began to take shape. Beliefs rooted not in fear but in self-respect. They didn't come as affirmations she forced herself to repeat, but as truths revealed over time. She noticed she handled challenges better than she expected. She remembered compliments she once dismissed too quickly. She recalled moments of resilience that once felt ordinary but now felt extraordinary. Her mind was learning to trust her again. But healing doesn't happen in isolation. It happens in boundaries, the quiet, steady act of choosing yourself. The first boundary Sarah ever set was so small she nearly apologized for it. A friend asked her to help with something last minute. The old version of her would have said yes instantly, even while exhausted. This time she took a breath and replied, "I wish I could, but I'm not able to today." Her voice trembled as she typed the words. Her stomach tightened. She waited for anger, disappointment, rejection. None came. Instead, her friend simply said, "No worries." The world didn't collapse. The relationship didn't shatter. She didn't become a bad person. She became a person with edges, and that changed everything. Boundaries weren't walls. They were windows, letting in what nourished her and keeping out what depleted her. Each boundary she set strengthened the part of her that believed she was worthy of protection. And with every small act of self-respect, sabotage lost a little more power. Still, there were days when old patterns resurfaced, when fear crept back in, when her body reacted before her mind could intervene. That's when she learned the power of the pattern interrupt, the tiny, intentional action that snaps the brain out of an emotional spiral. For Sarah, it was stepping outside for 60 seconds, feeling the air on her skin, letting her nervous system recalibrate. Sometimes it was washing her hands with cold water. Sometimes it was naming out loud what she was afraid of. These actions didn't erase the fear, but they kept her from being swallowed by it. They gave her enough clarity to take one small step in the right direction, and sometimes that was enough. Healing wasn't a straight line. It wasn't elegant or poetic. It was messy, tender, frustrating, liberating. But little by little, Sarah noticed she was no longer bracing for life. Her shoulders softened. Her decisions became bolder. Her inner critic grew quieter. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, she began to trust herself, to trust her voice, her desires, her instincts. She no longer asked, "What if I fail?" as often. She began to ask, "What if this is the beginning of everything I've been waiting for?" There comes a moment in every woman's healing journey when she realizes she is no longer fighting for survivals. She is fighting to step into her own life. It doesn't happen in a dramatic scene. There's no spotlight, no cinematic breakthrough, no triumphant music swelling in the background. It happens in a quiet room, often when no one is watching. Healing doesn't need an audience. It just needs a witness. And that witness is always yourself. For Sarah, the shift came on a Tuesday morning. Not a special day, not a milestone, just a morning where the sunlight fell differently through her window. She sat at her desk with her coffee, the same routine she'd done thousands of times before. But for some reason she paused. She felt her breath. She felt her pulse. She felt her body settle instead of brace. And in that stillness she realized something extraordinary. She no longer felt like she was waiting for her life to start. She was already inside it. It wasn't joy at first. It was disbelief, almost shock, like stepping into a room she didn't recognize, only to find out she had built it herself. A room shaped by boundaries she once feared setting, by compassion she once refused to offer herself, by choices she once believed she was not worthy of making. The surprise of it made her laugh, and that laugh carried something she had forgotten she possessed: relief. Relief that she wasn't broken. Relief that she had been capable all along. Relief that the girl inside her, the one who had been afraid of everything, was finally being held, not abandoned. But after the relief came sadness. A sadness so deep it felt like mourning. She grieved for the years she spent apologizing for her own existence. She grieved for every moment she stayed small to make others comfortable. She grieved for the dreams she delayed because she thought she wasn't ready, or worthy, or allowed. She grieved for the version of herself who worked so hard to belong in rooms that were never meant for her, when all along she was meant to build her own door. And where there is grief, there is also anger. Anger at the systems that taught her to doubt herself. Anger at the voices that silenced her. Anger at the internal critic that was never hers to begin with, but inherited through generations of women who were taught to shrink. This anger didn't burn her. It fueled her. It sharpened her clarity, steadied her voice, straightened her spine. It told her, never again. Never again will you abandon yourself to be loved. Never again will you dim to be accepted. Never again will you choose familiarity over your own future. This is what transformation looks like. Not perfection, but reclamation. A taking back of pieces that were lost along the way. A remembering of strength that was always there, just buried under years of fear. And slowly joy began to risen. Not the jittery, fragile joy that feels like it can be stolen at any moment, but a grounded joy. The kind that comes from knowing you can trust yourself, even when life shifts beneath your feet. One evening, Sarah walked alone through the city, watching the lights flicker in the windows around her. She realized she no longer feared possibility the way she once did. The unknown didn't feel like a threat, it felt like an invitation. She felt her heart swell excitement, nervousness, courage, all swirling together. And she whispered into the cool night air, maybe the future isn't something to fear. Maybe it's something to meet. Because something profound happens when a woman stops sabotaging herself. She becomes dangerous in the most beautiful way. Dangerous to the beliefs that once confined her. Dangerous to the limits she once accepted. Dangerous to the stories that said she was too emotional, too ambitious, too soft, too much. Dangerous, not because she harms, but because she awakens. And awakened women rewrite the world, beginning with their own. But awakening doesn't mean the absence of fear. Fear will always be part of the human condition. The difference now is that Sarah no longer obeyed it. When fear said, "Don't try," she responded, "I will try anyway." When fear said, "Don't speak," she answered, "My voice matters." When fear said, "You're not enough," she breathed in deeply and whispered, "Watch me." This wasn't rebellion, it was rebirth. And slowly, something else emerged. Connection. Not the kind built on pleasing or shrinking or overgiving, but the kind formed through presence, authenticity, and self-respect. She found herself attracting relationships that mirrored her growth instead of her wounds. Conversations that nourished instead of depleted. Love that felt spacious instead of suffocating. Belonging that wasn't earned, but natural. She no longer entered relationships to feel whole. She entered them because she already was. And that's the quiet revolution every woman deserves. The shift from self-protection to self-trust. From survival to expansion. From fear to agency. When sabotage dissolves, what remains is possibility. Not perfect possibility, but real possibility. The kind that grows from courage, curiosity, and compassion intertwined. So if you're listening to this, and something in your chest is tightening, maybe with hope, maybe with fear, maybe with longing, let that feeling speak. It is the part of you that knows you're meant for more than the patterns you inherited. It is the part of you that knows your potential isn't a threat, but a path. It is the part of you that is tired of shrinking and ready to rise. You don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to become fearless. You don't have to transform overnight. You only have to take one step, one gentle, intentional step, toward the woman you were always meant to become. And trust that she is already waiting for you. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If this journey touched something inside you, even something small, I invite you to stay with this, because understanding yourself is a lifelong unfolding, and you don't have to walk it alone. Share this video with someone who might need it. Leave a comment telling us which part of your story you're ready to rewrite. And if you're ready to keep exploring the depths of the female mind and heart, the next video waiting for you is one that changes everything. Why women lose themselves in love, and how they finally come back home to themselves. Your healing is already happening, and your future is already calling. Let's walk into it together.